Okay, we're back on the Coffin car. Alright, so I got my, we're going to call it a frame jig. It's really not a frame jig, but we're going to call it a frame jig. So I got the frame jig pretty much set up. I got the frame that I built on top of it. I squared everything off. I got everything clamped down. And I found my center lines using my laser. I'm not sure if you can see it in the camera, but we'll get closer later. Hopefully you should be able to see it. So I found my center lines. These are going to be my welded mounts. And this is the engine. This is a tranny. And basically I found my center line from front to back, and I centered everything else in between. Little questionable on this one, because I do have it centered here on the mount. But I got to verify that this one is actually centered, because at each end I'm off a good 3/4 to an inch. I would assume it would be like my front engine mount, and I have the same amount on each end to cut off, and then I can sink it, fit it, and weld it in. So we'll have to see. I'm going to have to do a little research. But in order to really set it up, I'm going to get my marks going. But I'm going to use, I don't think you can see it. Let me lift it up. I'm going to use my mock-up small block Chevy block. And I'm waiting on my transmission mock-up. So this way I'll put it together. I will lay it on the mounts. I will screw it down. And it's only going to be hand tight. You can't go more than like 10 foot-pounds without destroying the plastic block and the inserts. So that will assist me in finding true center of where everything's going to fit. I'll make my final marks. I'll overcut it. The cross members, I'll overcut each cross member, and this way I'll just fine sand it in on my sander, on my big belt sander. I'll just clean it up on each side till it drops in nice and snug. I'll clean everything up, and then I'm going to weld it in. So basically, you know, it's like just plain geometry and math. So I guess we do have to listen in school when they're talking about math and geometry, because it comes into play right here. So just a simple frame jig. It's all clamped down together, and like I said, found my centers, got my bars in here, or my cross members in here, and we're ready to really start getting into the mock-up and the cutting and the fitting and the welding and all that. But it's going to be extremely important also to keep everything square, to get that mock-up block and the mock-up transmission mounted to these cross members, because you also have to worry about them being plumb. And being that they're round and you're working with round items, it's kind of hard to get plumb. So we're going to use that as a fixture to create our plumb lines. Now, next problem. I started calculating, and I'll take the camera off in a minute. We'll show you some lines, and it's a little confusing, but so I got my marks here of where I'm going to cut, and I just have to calculate how much I got to add in. The coffin is approximately 83 inches. Right now, this frame to the front here, to the end of the flat, is approximately 82 inches. So we're already an inch short. And we need to add for the radiator that's going to be here. We need to add for, you know, the radiator, the lights. We're going to hide our hoses, at least we're going to try to hide our hoses underneath and then come up. And whatever is up, I'm probably going to go to like copper tubing, sweat it together, and create my own hoses and hard lines. And then it's going to be a lot of fabricating, because we've got to come up with the exhaust. We've got to come up with everything. So the engine does fit inside the coffin, so we know it fits. I do have to order the exhaust manifolds, because it looks a little tight, but I think the exhaust manifolds, if we get the ramp style like on the old Corvettes, I think that'll work well, because they're tight. They kind of hug the block. They're not block huggers, but they hug the block a little bit, so they kind of kick in at the bottom, which will really help. And then the rest is fairly simple. And you know, like I said, a lot of fabricating. We're going to have to figure out where to cut the floor on the coffin. We have to leave the floor in the seating area. But in the engine bay, we do have to cut it for a lot of reasons. Number one, it's got to get over the engine. Number two, we're going to need some airflow. And I'm going to need to come up with some type of a ram air type induction just to get airflow in there to keep things cool. And also, I'm going to have to study up on, you know, what is the thinnest insulation that I can use to protect the paint on the coffin. Because once that stuff starts getting hot, it's going to blister. So hopefully I can leave the paint that's on there, because like I said, man, it is really a nice paint job. And the top with the stainless and everything cleared, it's just excellent. I really don't want to touch anything on it. So hopefully it'll work out. I can insulate it, and we're not going to start having things start melting and causing problems. So let's pop the camera off just so we can look at this, you know, makeshift jig here and move forward. And like I always say, I'm not a cameraman, so there's my disclosure. So let's see, can we see the green? You see it there? It hits that member, and then it goes to the center of the back of the frame. Let's see if we get a little front shot of that. And you can see everything is clamped down. I got these fairly inexpensive clamps. I think they were like $70 for 8 of them. I believe they're 8-inch, and I got them on Amazon. I didn't need anything fancy. I didn't have to spend a ton of money. It's just holding the frame from moving around, especially after I cut it. And there's the green. You can see the green. And again, that's a great tool right there. I have a couple of them, and they come in really, really handy. As you can see on the wall, you can see the crosshair on the wall. You know, it goes as far as it hits the floor too. I don't think you're going to be able to see it. Maybe you can. But you can see it hits the floor too, so a great tool for squaring things. And as you can see, my cross member is lined up. And this one here, I'm assuming that in between here would be center. But as I said, we have less here, we have more here, so I may be wrong on that. So that's why I really need the mock-up transmission. And let's take a closer look at the mock-up block, which is pretty cool. It's got all the holes if I want to put the front cover on, if I want to put valve covers on, and it's got the distributor hole and all that. I believe it goes, well, it doesn't go all the way through, but it's enough that if you put a manifold on, you'll be able to mock it up. So we could also attach the transmission to it, and that actually will form a jig for us. And once we drop it in, we'll know exactly where these cross members are going to go. So right now, as far as I'm concerned, they're centered, and that's where they go, but the true measurement is going to be when I put the tranny and the mock-up engine together and lay it in those mounts and go from there. So this way there's no guesswork, because once you weld that stuff in, it's welded. And I'm using a combination of 1/16 wire, and I'm also using flux core, plus I shield it with gas. So this way we get a really, really nice weld. Yeah, it's a pretty decent weld. And as you can see, I ground this because I needed it flat for measurements. And you can see we're all welded up here. I did this a while ago. You know, it's nothing nothing new. You know, we got a little butt weld here with a little reinforcement on the inside. So we're going to go ahead, and I did my measurements, just came back here, did the same on the other side. These lines really mean nothing. They were just to line me up. This is where I'm going to cut, right there, where I have the line with the C. So I'll be cutting center of that on both sides. This whole piece will move forward. I still have to calculate the amount that I actually truly need or want. Once I move it forward, I can cut another 2x3 piece. I believe this is 1/4 inch, if I'm not mistaken, and a 1/4 inch wall. Drop it in there, line it all up, tack it, take my final measurements, make sure I'm happy with it, and then we're going to do you know, like an inch of welding here, then we're going to move to here. We're going to move around, so we're not going to create any type of warpage, because even though the material's heavy, it's still warp. And I'll also be clamping down this piece once we move it for many reasons. Number one, so it doesn't move, and number two, it'll help. As long as I have it down, it'll help with warping. Because even though this metal is thick, it'll still warp. It'll still, get, like a wonk on it, and then it's just, a disaster at that point. At that point, you're going to have to cut and just start all over again. And I'm only planning on doing things once, if possible, on this project. Because this one's going to have a lot of little intricate things that need to be done. I have everything for it. The only thing I don't have, I believe, is I do have the rear, but I don't have the third member because I don't know what I'm going to put for gears in it yet. I do not have a tranny. I have an engine coming. That's going to be a drop-in, turnkey, and go. So for the most part, this project should go fairly quick, but I only have so much time to spend here and work on it. And like the Chevelle is actually, it's almost all there. I just played around and put the hood release and everything in today. And again, it's only hand tight. I started lining up the front. I still got to do this one here. This one's going to need a little work. It needs to come up, but this fender needs to come in too. So we're going to start buttoning that up. I thought I was going to have help with the bumpers, but I didn't realize that one of my sons had to work at his regular job yesterday and today, and my other son had a gig last night, so he didn't get back home till about 3:30, 4 o'clock, whatever it was. So he's not really in any shape to help me out here today. So I guess bumpers are next week, hopefully, because I think that was his last gig for the year. And he'll be able to help me next week. We'll get in here, get these bumpers on, spend a little time on a Chevelle. So like I said, I'm still waiting for my, my transmission mock-up. And at that point, once we get all this done, ready, mocked up, we're going to have to calculate how to cut that gasket. And before things get crazy, I'm going to cut it, and then I'm going to get both my kids to give me a hand. I really could use a fourth hand. I'll see if I can find any volunteers. And we're going to lift it, and we're going to place it on top of the frame. And at that point, we'll decide, is it cut enough? Will everything fit? And if so, then we'll start really blasting forward from there. So again, an intricate project, an aggravating project at times, I'm sure. But we'll get there, just like we did with the Chevelle. It was a slow go with the Chevelle, but it's a running car right now. Needs some cosmetics, and that's done. And, hopefully we'll move along on this too. Just join us for the videos, for the progress, which it won't be a tremendous amount of progress. It's going to go slow because there's a lot of cutting at the beginning and a lot of fitting, so I can't rush through it. I'm going to see if I can set up the camera, so this way you guys kind of watch me cut a few things, weld them in, stuff like that. But like I said, it's really hard because, if I'm humped over and now I'm blocking the shot, what good is it? What are you seeing? My back or the back of my head or my helmet? So we'll see. I wish I had a camera person and, just somebody to kind of walk around, follow, and, this way I could do some hands-on stuff. All right, let's get this back on. Well, actually, let's do one more thing. Let's go through and look at the Coffin again. I was waiting I have a friend of mine that stopped by, Henry, and for some reason he just hasn't left. I don't know where he is now. I thought he would be here. I could get a little bit of a helping hand moving some stuff around, making some room, but I don't know, he's disappeared on me. Let's just check out the casket and see what we got. And oh boy, look at this bum. Look at him. He was supposed to help me, and here he is sleeping. Look, he's not even waking up, like he's dead or something. I just can't believe it. You invite people over, you think they're going to help you a little bit, have a good time. You haven't seen each other in a long time. I haven't seen this guy in forever. But, let him sleep. All right, let's get this camera back on the stand here, and we'll go from there. Look at this guy. All the noise we make, he's still, look, looks like he's dead here. Unbelievable. Let's just close it up. Let him rest in peace here. And I guess that's it. So, getting back to the car. Like I said, we're lined up. We got the green light. I'm going to shut my laser off here just for the simple reason I don't want to kill the battery. It's rechargeable, so I got another one. I got a backup one in case anything happens to that one. I always have another one. I try to do that with all my tools. The fairly inexpensive ones, I usually get a backup, so this way there's no problems. And you know, I guess that's about it. We're going to play around with the Chevelle a little bit today. You know, just a couple odds and little ends that I can do. The big stuff I can't do. I really got to get the bumpers on to finish lining everything up and start making it look like a final car. And then I'm going to need to get the hood on here. And the stock hood does fit. So if you take the stock hood, I already did, and I place it on there, I still have, with the cowl, because it's got the cowl induction hood, with the non-functioning, so you can't use the functioning one on here. I do have a functioning one, but it won't work because it's got that, you know, the round section that goes over the air cleaner, that gasket's over. That won't work with this setup, so I'm going to have to use the original hood that came with the car, which was a non-functioning cowl hood, which looks just as good. And it leaves me with about 2.5 inches under there, so we'll have enough airflow. And you guys already heard it start and run, and I just got to do a few things. I got to set the base timing on it. I got to verify the final timing, which is going to come in at about 30. And really that's it. And then I just got to play around with the brakes a little bit. They're bled. They feel pretty decent, but I think that we need to get a little more pedal travel. They seem like they go too far down before it actually wants to stop, so we're going to need to play with that a little bit, and we'll figure it out. And then just get some body things kind of lined up. But got to get these bumpers on, and that'll tell us the tail of alignment. So, you know, I got the motor mounts for the Coffin car too, that'll go on that block. And I got the tranny mount already, that came in also. I got the transmission mount. Oh, and most important, here's the special key I was telling you about for the Coffin to open and close it, to lock it. And this really, when you crank it down, it really cranks that cover down and sets that gasket perfect. So we will be using that. I'll have to eliminate the part up here that locks the Coffin down. But where the engine is, we're definitely going to be locking it down. So the other thing too is I got to come up with an idea with some type of a canopy. I don't know if I'm going to do an open canopy or a closed one like on the original Coffin car. So that's something else that I'm going to have to investigate and see how can I do that, where can I find a canopy that'll work. And I forgot where they found theirs. I think it was an airplane canopy. But you know, we're getting a little ahead of ourselves with that. But you know, during fabrication though, I would like to find that so I could cut my hole and get it all ready. We gotta come up with a seat idea, and you know, like I said, we'll get there slowly but surely, but we'll get there. So that's where we're at right now. It's really we just done setup and measuring, and you know, measuring like 5,000 times and cutting once, and that's it. So thanks for watching. Please like and subscribe. Ask any questions you'd like, comment, and I'll see you next week. Hopefully with a lot more progress.